Hello, YouTube modeling community. This is Rusty Rotor. I just want to do a quick little tech tip. Everybody asks me all the time and make comments on my engine compartments. You know how detailed they are, and yeah, they are. I mean, it's just everybody's really good at one aspect or another of model building, and mine just happens to be the detail in the engine compartment. Even though a lot of times, after it's all said and done and you've tucked your engine in there and your battery, and you lose a lot of the detail. You don't see it. So that's why, I think that's why model companies don't put, extreme detail into it. But there is, a one-off kit or a couple kits here and there you come across, and you just look at it and you think, oh, wow, it's got a lot of molded in detail. And then, you prime it, and then the detail pops out at you, and you really get a good visual of what's there. So then your next decision is, how far do I want to take it? Do I want to, do it by the extreme, or, just minimal here and there, things that are going to be really visible. And a good example is this 58 Impala. So you all know, I got it primered. It is wet sanded. It's ready to go. I need to wash it off now after you'll see what I've been doing. I need to wash the body again, and then she'll be ready to go into paint. So at this stage, this is when I start looking underneath, and you see all those little tiny holes that I've drilled, and you see that molded in wiring there. Yeah, it's not too blurry, so you should be able to get it. And we'll turn the camera around so you get a better angle. So what I do is I start looking at all that molded in wiring, and I know from experience that I would love to make a little wiring harness, but by the time you add the coating and everything else, then it jumps way out of scale, and it doesn't look good. It looks gaudy, for a lack of better terms. To me it looks like crap. I've seen some guys pull it off, and it looks really good. And I don't know how they do it. It blows my mind every time I see it. But I wish, and I know there is some things out there that could be used. So I'm not going to say there's nothing out there. It's just there's nothing that I'm aware of that's widely available, easily accessible, I guess, to do. So on this car, we're lucky that it has a lot of molded in, wiring harnesses, and it's open spaces. So what open spaces are: the engine compartment itself, and then the space between the front grille and bumper of the car, where you would see, for example, these horns. They attach to the face of the radiator, and the core support down here in the front. You can see those two holes. That's where the horns go. So and that's all visible down there. Not a whole lot, but it is visible. So in my mind, I say, why not? Let's put some detail in there, because it really doesn't take a lot of time. It is tedious, but after you do 2 or 3 of them, it becomes second nature, and it's not so hard. So what I've done is I drilled a hole in each one of the horns, because they get mounted just like this, flat. So I drilled, my wires, and I'll twist together a red and black wire, and it'll go in there, and it'll look as if the horns are actually wired. And then if you look up here in the upper corners, you'll see 2 holes here and 1 hole over here. That's so the harness travels through, feeds to the horns, and any other thing that would be electrical up here, maybe the turn signals in the bumper if it has it, whatever the case may be. And then it returns back and comes back into the car. And on this particular model, if you look on the sides, when we turn around, you'll be able to see better, but you can kind of see some holes I've drilled. The wires would run through the inner fender wells and into the back of the headlights. Well, that detail would be visible if you're looking underneath the car, and I don't go to that extreme. I have before, but on a regular basis I don't. It's just too much, and the judges aren't going to sit there and hold your model like this and look and, holy crap, he's wired the headlights and everything. Yeah, it's just, why go through it unless it's just something you want to do? Then by all means do it. So my first step is I look at it. I look it over real good. I kind of see where the molded in wires go to. What's it? What direction are they going in? Or is it accessible for me to drill? Blah blah. So on and so forth. In this case, there's a few angles that was kind of difficult to get to, but I know I'm in the primer stage, so if I scratch something or mess something up, I can lightly sand that area touch it up with primer, let it cure, and go on about my day. In this case, this car provides a lot of good things. The cat's claiming it's time for him to get out of my shop. So what I do first is I look and see where the wires are running and how many wires are they. Are they like, on a real car, each individual little wire here is probably 2, 3, or 4 wires, running. And in some instances, just one wire. I mean, it just depends on what's feeding. Old cars didn't have a lot of technology in them as far as, the electrical system. They were very, very primitive and basic at best. It was one ground fed everything. There might be four or 5 fuses in the fuse box, and multiple functions for each fuse. So of course, when you take it and you turn it into a resto mod, then you've got a lot more electronics you're putting into the car, and that's where like the ignition boxes, those aftermarket ignition boxes, come in really handy for that extra detail. This one will have one, but it's not going to feed all this wiring harness and everything through it. It's primarily going to be for the engine and what would be, the starter and charging system and stuff like that, and the distributor, of course. So I look and see where the wires run, and I call it A and B. So where the wire starts and where the wire ends, each wire. Now, if there's a multitude of wires, like as in this one, if you look down in there, there's like 3 wires coming out of one thing, then it goes to another thing, then it drops off and, leads to, you can see I got 3 holes drilled there. One hole's bigger than the other. That way those 2 wires, and when I say 2 wires, I mean on this side here, those 2 wires would go into the one hole. The single wire would go into one hole. And then out of that hole, I have 2 wires. So my hole's a little bigger down there, so I can bring 2 wires out through that. So I can, and the wire's so soft. I mean, here's a good example. This is the red I use. This is craft wire that you get at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, anywhere else like that. It comes in all these colors. And they are anodized, which is, it's a little throw off to, actual wiring, but you still get the neat look, of that you took the time to actually wire the car. I've tried painting this. There is a technique you can do. Stretch this out in between like 2 alligator clips, and spray a solid color on it, and then a matte clear over top of it, and let it clear, cure out, and you'll get the solid color wires like you like. That's a little more process than I want to go through. If it was for a show, I might do that. I've done it, so I can't say I wouldn't do it. But in this case, we're not. We're just using them, just like we did with the Charger, because it gives a nice look. It's just you got to pick your colors accordingly what the car would actually have. So, you've got your pale yellow, white, green, blue, red, black, and sometimes there was a more of a yellow, like a canary yellow, I guess would be the word. Colored wires that they used, from my knowledge, and I could be off on that, so don't cry me to the floor if I am. So anyways, I find where they start and they stop, and then I drill my holes all over the place. In this case, they run down both inner fender wells, the firewall, through the core support in the front. So I drilled all my main holes. So now I know where I got to feed the wires. And then I came back, because I've said this before, instead of using, like I use photo etch sprue, the flat metal, I cut the real tiny thin strips, and then I used special pliers, and I bend them over, and you can do it with tweezers if you got a good pair of tweezers, and I create little clamps, and they're cool. It's hard to get it right in place and get glued, and then get the wire in there and push it down, and a lot of times it'll just pop right back off. I've been lucky sometimes that they conform to the way I want them, and no issues. In this case, we're going to use the other method that I told you about, and that's wherever there's a strap molded in, you drill a hole at the top and the bottom of that strap, and then you feed once you run your main wires, you come back and feed the wire through where the strap is over top of your wires, and then everything's clipped off behind here, and a little drop of super glue, let everything cure. Then you take your snips and go in there and clip off all the excess wire, and hit it with some flat black paint or whatever color your fender well is. I mean, if this was a real high finish look in here, I probably would do a different method. But in this case, the tires are so far up in there, you're not going to see any of that anyways. So it kind of hides all the little wire ends. And of course, back here you won't see because the dashboard and the interior tub covers it. In here, we're just chasing wires through, down to the horns, and then back through. So, you know, it'll continuously feed around the engine compartment. It's not very hard. These little sets right here, whoops, you get these on Amazon. You get like 6 packs or 8 packs for like $12. They're very, you know, fragile, for lack of terms. But I mean, you guys can see that, if that'll focus on that. That's no bigger than a human hair. You know, they come in all different sizes. I always get the smallest two. Let's see what it says here. They usually say on what size they are. This one's a 0.0 or 1.20, which is probably about a millimeter, 1.5 millimeters, if that. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm just guessing by looking at it. I'm so used to U.S. standards, you know, a 16th, a 32nd, 64th, you know, so on and so forth. To me, that's under an eighth, so that'd be maybe like, you know, a 16th, right around there. They're tiny, and the one that's as big as a human hair, you know, you bind that just the wrong way and it'll snap off. I've already broke 3 just drilling out all this stuff on here. So just be mindful of them. Try to keep your drill bit straight where you have, you know, don't put a lot of pressure, don't push down at an angle when you're drilling. You know, plastic's soft. These are very, they're not soft, but the metal's so hard that just a little bind and it'll break right off. But they work excellent. And then I use a real tiny pin vise. You can see I got one in there now. And you can change the inner chuck, as I call it. You know, if you got a Dremel tool or anything like that, you know, there's different size bits. And there's a, well, I can't get it out right, but you can see that brass colored thing in there. Those are different sizes, and they accommodate the shaft of these drill bits or whatever tool you're using, grinding tool, anything like that. So I've been successful with that. This is for a torch, a micro drill bit set to clean out the tip of a torch. And this is the pin vise for that. And it works really well. Some of these want to spin on you, but if you turn it just enough, and once this turns to a certain point, it kind of locks and then it'll drill. But it's real slender, so you can get into tight areas versus the bigger, wonkier pin vices. But yeah, this is the wiring I use. Like I said, I don't know what size this is. I mean, this is really tiny. I know there's companies out there that sell this in like solid colors. Like the black's not so bad, because it's not anodized. It's just shiny. And when I really do wiring, I'd like to have a dull look to them. I could probably pull off some wire and dull it down and go on about my business. That would work too. It would take some of that metallic shine out of it. I don't know. So we're going to cut off a piece here real quick. We're going to try to keep this video very short. So, you know, I have a piece here. And now if I was doing a 2-wire run, I would twist them together. And then add, you know, the individuals. So if you see in here, I'm going to, I know I've got 3 wires coming from here and into there. So I'm going to push my 1 wire in, and always have a little extra. That way it's easier to feed. And then I got 1 wire in there. So then I can come in here on the back side, push my wires in a little bit more and grab them and pull them down. Now this has got multiple wire runs, so you know, the hole's going to get filled up. We'll get down here so you can see. So like there's the red wire. Now you can see the holes are bigger than the wire, but remember I've got 3 wires and then 2 wires coming out of there. So those holes are going to get tight. And you may only be able to get 2 in there. But I always come back with a little dab on a toothpick and some of that UV resin, and I put it in there and I cure it, and then I come back in with a tiny paintbrush and touch up with flat black all the areas so you don't see any of those holes or any space in the hole. But that shows you, I've run one wire. Then you can use something to manipulate the shape of the wire and get your wires, ran just like they are on the firewall. Because these down here, you can see they go from down here and they curve upward and they come back down over here. So you can put your wire there, and that's where the that UV glue comes in real handy. You put a little dab on something, take a toothpick, and you get a little drop. I mean, tiny amounts. You're not using a lot, but you can put a little dab right behind one of those wires. Take something or your thumb and push the wire in to touch it, and then hit it with that light, and pow, it's in place. You're done. Keep moving. There's no sitting there waiting 5 or 10 minutes for the glue to dry and then moving on to the next spot. I use super glue on the back sides, a little dab, just for extra security to keep everything in place. And then, I touch it up with flat black paint so it's not so visible. But that's basically how I do it, guys. I mean, I'll feed all my colors in, then I'll trim them off, and I use my fall off. See, that's a pretty good length there. I'll use that for another run until it becomes too short. And I still keep all those little pieces because there may be a time that I need a tiny little piece of red. So I've always got tons of fall off of everything. So I said, this stuff would damn near last a lifetime. One of these little rolls, as much as they give you. And you get like a 6-pack or 8-pack of different colors. For $12, it's well worth it. And then you'll find you'll use more red and black than anything. I try to keep stuff as I would see on real cars from time to time, coming off like an alternator or all points. That's all things, you can keep in your head. Maybe make some little notes down of things that you've seen. Mopar might use a yellow and a white and a red or a blue, whatever it may be. You keep a mental note and write that down, so the next time you're working on a Mopar and you're wiring the distributor or the alternator, you'll know from what you've seen, hey, their alternators had this color, and this color, and try to seek out those wires. But there is like ProTech and several other companies that carry just solid color wire. I've been trying to find it so I can buy it in bulk to go along with what I have here. I still like to use this stuff, even though it's metallic looking. It's the color pops, and it draws your eyes to it, and that's key. When you're doing an engine detail and you're doing the whole engine compartment and the engine and everything, you want it to stand out. If I was doing more of an older car, like old as an age, it's not been restored or customized or anything, I'd probably want more of the dull wire just to coincide with what I'm doing. But I just thought you guys would like to see that. I've had a lot of requests on that. A lot of comments have been made. I've heard it from judges at shows. Ask me, holy crap, how did you do that? It must have taken forever. No, it really does not take forever. You just need to know when it's the right time to do it or prep for it. You don't want to have your body finished painted and get in there with a drill bit and slip and scratch across your paint job. After you've got your primer on, you're happy with your primer, you've wet sanded, now's the time to drill your little holes. Because your coats of paint are going to cover any little mishaps or anything like that, or you can get in there and touch it up if you need to. In this case, the engine itself is going to fill up the engine compartment pretty good. All this detail is a little higher, so it'll be visible. So that's why I went ahead and did it on this. I hadn't planned to do it, but I was like, there you go. There's a rabbit hole right there. Sucked me right in. It's like, oh, well, this would be, and I did. It was a good idea to do to show you guys. So we're going to call this quits. Any questions, guys, please leave down in the comments or send me an email on how I do things. What do I use? Blah, blah, blah. I don't really know the brand names of these. Yeah, but like I said, they're carbon something micro drill bits. You can find them on Amazon. They're, like I said, you get like 6 packs of them for like $12. And I go through maybe 2 of those shipments, so 12. And you can get them in packages of 12 and 14. The price goes up, but I go through about 2 sets of these, as far as each set being 6 packs, in about 2 years. And some of them I have the bigger sizes because they are stronger. I've got tons of them, but I've broken these too. They're not real strong. You just got to keep in mind when you're using them to pay attention to what angle you're drilling at and what kind of pressure you're putting on it, and so on and so forth. Because the tinier the bit, the more brittle that it is and it becomes, and just a little slight bind, it'll snap, and you're like, I didn't even do nothing, and it's broke. It just happens. So that's why I like these in the 6-pack or more, because I'll break the smaller sizes on each build. And then I have other regular drill bits that go in this that are pretty much of equal size, but they're so long they're hard to get into areas because of the length of them. These are short, and it's less space, less material I'm trying to get into a small space. That's why I really like them. And plus, they do, some of them are smaller than what you can get in a standard, drill bit size. Even for micro drill bits, they're not. I have them, and they're a little bit smaller than that one right there. And it's still, when you're running these little wires single, it's too big of a hole. So, food for thought. Like I said, let me know. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Drop me a sub. This was just out of the blue. I figured I'd do it. I didn't have really nothing to do. I got some bad news today. So it looks like I'm going to be having another surgery in the fall. Got to wait till this surgery here is healed, and I'm back on my 2 feet a little bit, because I'm going to be down for basically the whole winter via getting a whole new knee. We were thinking maybe just some repair to the knee, but no, it's a whole knee replacement. So that's going to drag me down for a while. But also, downtime equals more model time after I can get back on my feet a little bit. So we may be just doing some random dumb stuff when it comes to videos, just keeping you updated on what's going on, where everything's at. But just give you guys a heads up. I'm going to kind of take it easy today, let the news sink in. I'm going to work on this 58 a little bit. I might get it painted today. I'm just going to see where the day takes me. So, like I said, I appreciate all the comments, all the support I've been getting. Thanks to Mark at Hobby Nut Models. Like I said, type in that code SUMMER22. It's all caps. That's how he sent it to me, so I'm assuming that's how you're going to put it in. All caps, SUMMER, SUMMER, I believe that's how it was, 22. When you go to his website, that's the end of the summer sale, the 20% off on the used kits. It's a really good deal. And if you're not into new used kits, you want a new kit or tools, that link's going to take you to his main site anyway, so it doesn't matter. Once you get in there, if you decide you go to the used kit route, make sure you put that code in there so you get that 20% off. It is only for the used kits, not for, the whole store. McGill has the 10% off your entire order, or your entire purchase, so don't forget about him. I'll make sure I'll put his link down there too, both of them, his Instagram link and his store link. And my buddy's still in the hospital, so say a little prayer for him. I appreciate it. And I guess, hell, say a little prayer for me. Kind of bummed. I expected a minor surgery. I didn't expect a major one, so it sucks. But, if I want to walk and be zero pain or less pain than I'm in, that's my only route, unfortunately. So, I've drug this out too far because I get to talking. I apologize. This is Rusty Rotor. I love you guys. I'm out.